Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Vedanta Swami Maharaj Shila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Bhagyan Keshav Gosai Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vishnupad Ashatara Shatashmad Shila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Gosai Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Mahabhagavat Shila Vaksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Vishnu Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Shri Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupa Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadashikana Shara Gosai Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gopal Shada Vrinda ki jai. Nam Acharya Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem se kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shikshetra Mandala Gaura Mandala Vraja Mandala Mathura Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Sarva Abhishtabharata Giriraj Maharaj ki jai. Shri Shri Radha Kund Shama Kund ki jai. Shri Muna Devi Ganga Devi ki jai. Shri Tulsi Maharani Vrinda Devi ki jai. Shri Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Purnamasi Yogamaya ki jai. Shri Gopeshwar Mahadev ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय. श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल. ओम ज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. नमो विष्णुपदाय राधिकाय प्रियात्मने Shri Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Narayana Namine. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhakti Vedanta Swamine Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya eva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam pravrajantam anupetam apeta krityam dvaipayano viraha katara ajuhavo putreti tanmayataya taravo bhinedo stam sarva bhuta hridayam munimanatosmi narayanam namaskrityam naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Shrinvatang Swakata Krishna Punya Shavana Kirtana Redantastoya Bhadrani Vidhunoti Saritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtiki Tavaivasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvam Nayamam Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparada Lakshaya Kshiptashtakamatirtarangamate Kripa Maitam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanaravinda. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hari Bol says Shri Mataji and Prajumna Prabhu. Alright, I'm actually in a crazy marathon with a deadline I should have been finished with this book already by now, and I have so much more to do on it. And so, yeah, these days I'm just going to be a little bit, I don't know, not so together. What am I looking for? Oh, yeah. Where is it? Yeah, we're publishing a Bengali book, and I'm having to do the proofreading for it. And it's not ready for even sending for layout. What am I looking for? Okay. Whatever. We probably don't need to do this, but okay. So yesterday we read about the stages of embryonic development and then the sufferings within the womb. The worms bite, eating, or when the mother eats spicy or sour or that kind of food, it burns the baby, the embryo, and thus I'm just going to read the last 3 verses just so we get the flow. But the child thus remains just like a little bird in a cage. Sorry, the child remains just like a bird in a cage without freedom of movement. At that time, if the child is fortunate, he can remember all the troubles of his past 100 births, and he grieves wretchedly. What is the possibility of peace of mind in that condition? Thus endowed with the development of consciousness from the 7th month after his conception, the child is tossed downward by the airs that press the embryo during the weeks preceding delivery. Like the worms born of the same filthy abdominal cavity, he cannot remain in one place. The living entity in this frightful condition of life, bound by 7 layers of material ingredients, prays with folded hands, appealing to the Lord who has put him in that condition. Okay, now this is where we read it. Janturvacha tasyopasannamavitum tasyopasannam avitum jagarichaya nanattanurbuvichalatcharanarvindam soham brajami sharanam hyakuta bhayam me yene drishi gatiradarshya sato nurupa. The human soul says, I take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who appears in his various eternal forms and walks on the surface of the world. I take shelter of him only, because he can give me relief from all fear, and from him I have received this condition of life, which is just befitting my impious activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Chalaj Charanarvindam refers to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who actually walks or travels upon the surface of the world. For example, Lord Ramachandra actually walked on the surface of the world, and Lord Krishna also walked, just like an ordinary man. The prayer is therefore offered to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who descends to the surface of this earth or any part of this universe for the protection of the pious and the destruction of the impious. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that when there is an increase of irreligion and discrepancies arise in the real religious activities, the Supreme Lord comes to protect the pious and kill the impious. This verse indicates Lord Krishna. Another significant point in this verse is that the Lord comes, Ichaya, by his own will. As Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita, Sambhavamyatma Mayaya, I appear at my will by my internal potential power. He is not forced to come by the laws of material nature. It is stated here, Ichaya. He does not assume any form, as the impersonalist thinks, but he comes at his own will, and the form in which he descends is his eternal form. As the Supreme Lord puts the living entity into the condition of horrible existence, he can also deliver him, and therefore one should seek the shelter at the lotus feet of Krishna. Krishna demands, give up everything and surrender unto me. And it is also said in Bhagavad Gita that anyone who approaches him does not come back again to accept a form in material existence, but goes back to Godhead, back home, never to return. Yastatra iva karma Yastartabhata iva karma vritatma bhutendriya shayamayem avalambya mayam aste vishuddham avikaram akhanda bodham Atapyamana hridaya vasitam namami. I, the pure, sorry. I, the pure soul, appearing now bound by my activities, am lying in the womb of my mother by the arrangement of Maya. I offer my respectful obeisances unto him, who is also here with me, but who is unaffected and changeless. He is unlimited, but he is perceived in the repentant heart. To him I offer my respectful obeisances. Purport. As stated in the previous verse, the jiva soul says, I take shelter of the Supreme Lord. Therefore, constitutionally, the jiva soul is a subordinate servitor of the Supreme Soul, this personality of Godhead. Both the Supreme Soul and the jiva soul are sitting in the same body, as confirmed in the Upanishads. They are sitting as friends, but one is suffering and the other is aloof from suffering. In this verse it is said, Vishuddham avikaram akhanda bodham. The Supersoul is always sitting apart from all contamination. The living entity is contaminated and suffering because he has a material body. But that does not mean that because the Lord is also with him, he also has a material body. He is avikaram, changeless. He is always the same supreme. But unfortunately, the Mayavadi philosophers, because of their impure hearts, cannot understand that the Supreme Soul, the Supersoul, is different from the individual soul. It is said here, Atapyamana hridaya vasitam. He is in the heart of every living entity, but he can be realized only by a soul who is repentant. The individual soul becomes repentant that he forgot his constitutional position, wanted to become one with the Supreme Soul, and tried his best to lord it over material nature. He has been baffled, and therefore he is repentant. At that time, Supersoul, or the relationship between the Supersoul and the individual soul, is realized. As it is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, after many, many births, the knowledge comes to the conditioned soul that Vasudeva is great. He is the master, and he is the Lord. The individual soul is a servant, and therefore he surrenders unto him. At that time, he becomes a Mahatma, a great soul. Therefore, a fortunate living being who comes to this understanding, even within the womb of his mother, has his liberation assured. Yad panchabhuta rachite rahita sharire chano yatendriya gunartha chiratmakoham tena vikunta mahimanam rishim tamenam vande param prakriti purushayo pumangsam. I am separated from the Supreme Lord because of my being in this material body, which is made of 5 elements, and therefore my qualities and senses are being misused, although I am essentially spiritual. Because the Supreme Personality of Godhead is transcendental to material nature and the living he's transcendental to the material nature and the living entities, because he is devoid of such a material body. And because he is always glorious in his spiritual qualities, I offer my obeisances unto him. Purport. The difference between the living entity and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is that the living entity is prone to be subjected to material nature, whereas the Supreme Godhead is always transcendental to material nature as well as to the living entities. When the living entity is put into material nature, then his senses and qualities are polluted, or designated. Designated? Okay. Designated to a false conception of sorry, I'm just trying. Okay, there's no possibility for the Supreme Lord to become embodied by material qualities or material senses, for he is above the influence of material nature and cannot possibly be put into the darkness of ignorance like the living entities. Because of his full knowledge, he is never subjected to the influence of material nature. Material nature is always under his control, and it is therefore not possible that material nature can control the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Since the identity of the living entity is very minute, he is prone to be subjected to material nature, but when he is freed from this material body, which is false, he attains the same spiritual nature as the Supreme Lord. At that time, there is no qualitative difference between him and the Supreme Lord. But because he is not so quantitatively powerful as to never be put under the influence of material nature, he is quantitatively different from the Lord. So he's qualitatively one of the Lord, but quantitatively different from the Lord. Basically, he's Satchidananda, just like the Supreme Lord, but he isn't all-pervading like the Supreme Lord and all-powerful and, all these things. The entire process of devotional service is to purify oneself of this contamination of material nature and put oneself on the spiritual platform, where he is qualitatively one with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In the Vedas, it is said that the living entity is always free. Asango hyayam purusha. The living entity is liberated. His material contamination is temporary, and his actual position is that he is liberated. This liberation is achieved by Krishna consciousness, which begins from the point of surrender. Therefore, it is said here, I offer my respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Person. Yanmaya yoruguna karma nibante. Yanmaya yoruguna karma nibandhanesmin sansarike paticharam starabhishramena nashta smriti punarayam pravritnita lokam yuktya kaya maharanugrahamantarena. The human soul further prays. The living entity is put under the influence of material nature and continues a hard struggle for existence on the path of repeated birth and death. This conditional life is due to his forgetfulness of his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, without the Lord's mercy, how can he again engage in transcendental loving service of the Lord? Purport. The Mayavadi philosophers say that simply by cultivation of knowledge, by mental speculation, one can be liberated from the condition of material bondage. But here it is said one is liberated not by knowledge, but by the mercy of the Supreme Lord. The knowledge the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation, however painful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach this absolute truth. Okay. That's important. The knowledge the conditioned soul gains by mental speculation, however powerful it may be, is always too imperfect to approach the absolute truth. It is said that without the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot understand him or his actual form, quality, and name. Those who are not in devotional service go on speculating for many, many thousands of years, but they are still unable to understand the nature of the absolute truth. One can be liberated in the knowledge of the absolute truth